Hello, assalamu alaikum, sat sri akal, namaste. My name is Farheen Khan, and you're watching the Azeeza Show. This week on the Azeeza Show, we have two really incredible women that are with us, and we're going to talk about what it means to really, aspire to achieve your dreams. And so with me are Kirin Singh and Sumu Sathi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Okay, great. So I wanted, every week we talk to some really remarkable women, and we've talked about, different individual stories, talking about, resilience and kind of struggle, but also really trying to understand, what the driving factor is, in everybody's lives. So why don't we just, maybe you can both introduce yourselves and tell us who you are.
Do you want to go first? Yeah, sure. Okay. So I'm Kirin Singh, and I've been in real estate for 20 years. I just actually had my 20th anniversary. I'm a single mom. I'm divorced. I have two beautiful children, 11, my son's 11, and my daughter is turning 10 next week.
Oh, okay, me.
Yeah.
My name is Sumu Sathi, and you already know me for a very long time now. Sure. And I am in the social work industry, and I work for the Canadian government, but I also have other passions, such as I've been in the media industry for so long, and currently I'm a business coach for beginners, and I also have a podcast called Blunt Truth Show.
Wonderful. So I'm really curious to know, and I'm sure our audiences as well, is what actually has inspired you to get to where you are? What was your journey like? And I know, Kirin, you've written a book as well. So,
well, I'm not anywhere close to where I need to be in my journey, but it's an awesome process. I got into real estate when I was really young, and through my younger years, I just kind of realized that I was destined for more. And we live in a society where if you want to give back, there's certain things you can do, but really, truly to make an impact, you need money as well, right? And so therefore, I work very hard to become financially successful. One, not only to raise my children as a single mom, but also to be a philanthropist and to give back and not just use other people's money and so on and so forth, but to really work hard and strive to do great and then also provide that great service to other people. I wrote a book called The Key to Success. That was probably about 5 years ago.
Yeah, I remember being at the launch.
Yeah, and I'm definitely due to write a new one. Because so much has happened from that book. When I wrote that book, I had just opened up ROI Realty, which was my own brokerage firm in the city of Toronto. And since then, I've let that business go to another venue or another vehicle and just kind of focus on different things in the interim. And now I'm going into development and, building and in construction. And being a woman in this industry is tough, one, but to go into development where it is a predominantly male-driven industry is also challenging. And, it's now becoming more of a perseverance of just showing that women can really do whatever they put their minds to, right? In whatever field or industry that is. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
It's wonderful.
Thanks.
Very inspiring. Well, Farheen, I've interviewed you in the past because I come from the media industry, and when I entered the industry, I was so shocked because it was a very male-dominated industry from like we were talking before the show. It's from the director to the producer to the cameraman to everybody. And then you just, as a talk show host, I was just expected to just say whatever the cameraman told me to say, right? So, and I was even told, you don't need to do directing and producing and being a show host. You can just be a TV show host, right? So I saw, especially in the South Asian community, it was very hard for women to actually take leadership roles because most of the decisions were made behind closed doors over whiskey. So it's like, what if, for cultural, there were a lot of restrictions, and how do you actually break those glass ceilings to tell your stories, right? So I went ahead, I left the TV industry and launched a online production company and a online TV called Mandra TV, where I've interviewed you. And that was fantastic, but the time came for me to kind of rebrand to a multicultural audience, but also women wanted to know, how did I build my business? Because I did have a couple of businesses in the past. And coming from the social work industry, I saw where we lack is the mindset. For so many people, there's like everything is sugar coated when it comes to business. It's like they see like the fancy part of it, but all the struggles behind it, right? Especially for women. And so a lot of women started reaching out to me from the South Asian community for business coaching.
Right.
So now I've rebranded as a business coach for beginners, and I also have a show called Blunt Truth. And the reason I launched that show is that people always stop me from speaking the truth or talking about our dirty laundry, especially in the South Asian community. So when I had sponsors in the past, my hands were tied, or like I couldn't say anything. You know, I had to always be careful of the sponsor's image, and not talk about divorce or mental health or sexual orientation or cultural taboos, like none of that stuff that I was not able to talk about. So I chose to launch this podcast called Blunt Truth Show, which is it's the non-sugar coated version about business and lifestyle.
Cool. I want to come on that show too.
Yeah, you will.
That's awesome. That's great. So, can you tell us, like, obviously, you've talked about it as well, like this, none of this came easy, and as you mentioned, like, you guys are, we're all sort of still on our journeys, right? In terms of trying to achieve what we want to achieve. What is it that, is there like one particular incident that you can perhaps describe for us, and or a series of incidents that kind of where you were sort of at a really low point in your life, and what was it that kind of inspired you to keep going?
Well, mine, and this is actually the first time I'm actually publicly saying it, is that in 2016, myself and my two business partners were arrested. And we were arrested for fraud in my private lending company. And, Farheen, I mean, thank God you know me for a little bit as well, but for those who know me as a person and know who I am with my business and my clients, that was a huge punch to me, because one, I was 100% innocent. Two, I've never experienced in my entire life racial profiling that I thought of anyhow, and that was I was definitely targeted as racial profiling. And just going through an ordeal of being arrested and charged in an industry that I've built my reputation in, to the mindset of everything I've done up till that point is all wiped away, because that one incident that I had absolutely no control over with this client wiped everything else that I had worked so hard towards away. Yeah. And so I really secluded myself. That's why I closed down ROI Realty. I couldn't focus. I felt ashamed, I felt dirty, and you care about what people think at the end of the day. And so as successful as I was up until that point, I never really understood, I guess, the whole psyche and the mental and the mindset really about, I knew I was a hustler, I knew I did well and I worked hard, but in order to gain the level of success that I'd like to achieve and the path that I'd like to, fly towards, I needed to go through that 2 years of turbulence, because it really brought me closer to God. And I was never really a much of a spiritual person per se, and so it definitely brought me closer to God, because there's nothing that can get you through something like that when you know you're innocent. And in this country, it's sad to say that they say you're innocent until proven guilty, but you're really not. Once the media comes out and once something is put on Google, everyone comes up with their own story. And even people who don't know you, they'll come up with their own, and they follow the media, right? And it's not what that is, right? So I had to go through a lot of challenges, and really the only thing that got me through it was the grace of God, and that there was nothing else that could have got me through that than really truly believing that God exists. And And so, sure enough, I kind of stopped everything. And I spent more time with my kids in the last 2 years than I've ever done. And that's been amazing. And I'm stronger and I'm bolder and more confident than I was before. And I was pretty bold, strong, and confident before, but I'm like on some next level where I'm taking further risks. I mean, to develop 27 condo units, and it's just me, is pretty remarkable. And there's no way I could have done it, again, without God, right? So to go through those challenges, it's the ones that can get through it, that can get back up. You see some of my posts online and social media. I've taken some really, really hard punches in the last 10 years. I turned 40 in November, and I feel like it was all a blessing, right? It was all kind of to get you through that. And if you look at really the true successful people in the world that you admire and respect, you only see that level of success of they're this, that, next, third, and the other, but nobody really delves into the experiences that led them to that, right? And so another thing that I've done in the last 2 years is read, because I had to keep to myself and stay away from the public eye and just kind of not really go and introduce myself in networking in our businesses of being an entrepreneur, got to network, meet new people. I was afraid that people would then Google search, oh, Kirin Singh, she was live, she was great, because I can do that. But then it was the fear of you going home and Google searching me, and then it was like, I kind of like melted away again, right? And so I've read, and there's a lot of amazing people in this world that are famous or have made an experience, but then only until you read their truth, right? And what their journey was, that you're like, wow, okay. So my advice to people is, no matter how many punches you get, like, our bodies are resilient, and you can just keep getting up, and the mind is a beautiful thing. And you have to stay quiet and stay focused and just kind of keep telling yourself that if you know in your heart of heart you have integrity, humility, and love, you'll get through anything that it is that's trying to keep you down.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
You're so strong. Thank you for sharing that, though. Wow.
Man, yeah, no problem. It's gonna start coming out.
So I actually forgot the question now because I was so into your story. I just went into your world. I was like,
the worst thing that could have humanly happened.
I know. I was just like, oh my god.
That's like a low point that you've been through.
The low point. Okay, there are many,
going?
many low points. To tell you the truth, I think like when I entered the media industry, I was at that time like I come from a very let's say a very a closed culture, like so I was dating somebody outside the culture when I got kicked out of the house, and I just had to I just thought, what, this might be my freedom to the, like, my ticket to freedom. Okay, let me go. So I ended up buying a house, with this mortgage payment and everything. That relationship didn't work out, but I was in the public eye when that fell apart. And being in the media industry, you're already known. You're considered as this. Oh, they're a certain type of a girl. That's why you're in front of camera, and then you're here in the media industry, right? So going through. That was like very, very hard, and that's why I left the TV industry to finally, just launch my own thing, so I can give a platform for women, because women were having a very hard time, even if they were doing some amazing stuff. They didn't get platforms because they were not sponsored, or they didn't have the networks, and there was nobody that I was able to look up to in a South Asian community. So my role model became Oprah Winfrey, right? So it was like, okay, so now how do I help these other women that are on the same boat? And so I went through severe depression after launching this company. I guess it was great, but at the same time I was in that circle of people that hid everything under the carpet, but it's all about the fame and the money and the hustlers and that and this, and they didn't really focus on their lifestyle or their relationships or or doing anything with purpose.
Right. We're just going to take a quick break. I'm sorry. And we'll be back. We'll come back to your story.
Okay.
Just give us one moment. We'll be back shortly. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Azeeza Show. We were just listening to Sumu Sathi tell us your story.
Yeah.
So what was happening?
So I was, like I said, I launched this production company, and I was at this high and making tons of money. I had so many people working under me, and I was traveling around the world. But at one point I just came, I'm like, why am I doing all this? It just seemed to be so what is the end goal of this, right? Yes, I wanted to make it because I was so angry, seeing the way that women were treated in the industry and also in the community. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make it there with my own money, with my own hard work, and I'm going to give a platform for women. But I went to a point I was so burnt out, and I started getting hit with depression, and I lost the purpose and all of that stuff, and I just took a full break. At that moment I realized, if I'm going to go ahead and start anything else, then it has to be combined with giving back to the community. And you know what, it's not about, proving a point or, telling people, this has to be done the right way. It's not, I don't want to be fitting into the circle of people that I think it came out of resentment and anger. It's you're not going to give me an opportunity, let me create the damn opportunity, and I'm going to show you how many people I'm going to give that platform to, right? Yeah. So after I took the break, I launched Blunt Truth, and I continued with the business coaching, and then I went to Sri Lanka for 3 months on a humanitarian project last year. So for the people that don't know what happened in Sri Lanka, after a 30-year war ended in 2009, in the provinces of North and East, there were several people that were massacred, that were killed in the war, and there are so many people missing still, and there's a lot of missing families, there's war widows, and there's so much trauma in the post-war phase. So I was doing leadership facilitating in the North and East for the people who have been affected by the war, and I decided to film a documentary about 3 women that have been directly and indirectly impacted by the war, and how they are continuing to give back instead of running away, or instead of going into depression, or even not even having the resources to heal, right? And just kind of telling the story of those people. So it's in post-production right now. It's called Daughters of Film, and it will be coming out probably end of the year. So it was I had to really restructure the way that success was going to be achieved. I had to let go of a lot of resentment and hurt that I had with my own community. And being South Asian, it was just all this why, right? And at this point I had to let it go and be like, you know what, I'm just going to take small steps and get to where I'm going, right? And also about focusing on mental health, because I did get hit with depression a few times, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about the depression side, right? And because entrepreneurship is such a fancy thing that people don't see of all the other things that could be coming around with it. So that was my lowest point when I hit. I'm like, what is the point of doing all this, right? Yeah.
And we feel like that a lot, right?
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, doesn't matter if you get through one success. If we had an interview next year, we'd probably say something within this year led us to feel that way as well, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of keep going, is it worth it? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
And it's the ones that keep saying it's worth it that continue, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of business, because both of you are in business, right? So what is the what advice would you give to people who are interested in business, particularly women? Because it's easy. It's not easy. Certainly even getting a job is difficult, right? And it's always, but there's always that question of whether women should get into entrepreneurship or not, right? And it could be different for different people in terms of scale. But what do you think?
For me, I think being an entrepreneur and working for yourself is amazing, right? At the end of the day, you call your own shots, and you get to, decide what's more important, and time and work balance, and being a woman and being a mom. That's in itself, it's its own job, right? And sometimes I forget that I need to cut myself some slack to say, you're raising 2 children while you're doing all this other stuff. So if I wasn't an entrepreneur, I would be, going through the traffic in the morning and dealing with the boss saying, well, why are you leaving at this time, or so on and so forth. And to me, that feels stifling. I think everyone should be an entrepreneur, to be honest with you. I think the world in itself is university, but you have to also be very disciplined. You've got to be a hustler, and you've got to be disciplined. But I don't know. I mean, my thing is, if you're as disciplined as you are in a job working for somebody else, then why not try to venture off? And we're much more creative than we tend to give ourselves, right? We're very, very creative individuals, and women just know how to do everything. So like, why not just strive and be perfect in everything that you want to do that, you know, makes you kind of happy, or, you know, puts a smile on your face, right?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to business, yes, definitely it's something that people should give a lot of thought about. Like she said, yes, entrepreneurship, I always tell people that it's like a roller coaster without wearing your seatbelt. Okay, so you have to enjoy the thrill, right? There's no consistent paycheck that's coming in the beginning. Especially if it is women that are coming into business, I tell them there is something called employee mindset versus entrepreneur mindset. So if you're coming from the employee world, then what are the things that have been told to you, right? What are the security, the consistency, and, you know, your retirement and all that stuff, and your routine. Now you have to switch that mindset to an entrepreneur mindset, which is a little bit opposite of that. And the other thing is, your money mindset has to be different from how it was before. So yeah, your money mindset, where is it coming from? How your parents have, what they have told you? Do you come from a certain culture? How does the culture value money? And what are your, you know, thoughts about money? Your partner or your friends, what do they think about money? So all those things, there's a lot of things behind, you know, before starting a business, and it has to do with mindset, and that's why I work with the mindset. So it's not about like everything is fancy, because we can tell you that we can tell you that it is not fancy. There's a lot of hard work behind it, and like she said, you have to choose the lifestyle that suits you. Like if you're a mom with kids, like, you know, you're not going to see success like in 3 months. It might be a year, right? A single person, it might be 3 months for them to launch their business, right? So it has to be realistic for you. Like, don't put yourself out there like I did, like where I just went from like 0 to like 10, and then, you know, you hit depression or you just fall, right? So, you know, have like a really solid base, just like building a house.
Yeah,
you would know. Yes, like,
I think, you know, I wish that the education system in our younger generations would start to employ that in our school systems, and finance. You know, you hit a key point there where, I mean, I was blessed to learn finance from my mom, but you know, it's a joke being in real estate, and I don't even like telling people I'm a real estate agent, because like I feel like I'm so much more than that. But it's scary that the amount of debt we live into in a society of, we want all this and we're willing to put ourselves into debt for it, but not really understanding how finance works and how saving and how investing and so on and so forth. Then I mean, that's a whole other topic that you can get into, right? About the government and investments and so on and so forth. But, you know, I wish they would do something in the school systems, right? That would just encourage that whole mindset and motivation, inspiring, as opposed to just learning X, Y, and Z, right? Yeah.
So both of you must get a lot of women that reach out to you and ask, do people reach out to you for your book, for your show? Like, what kind of...
I've kind of been MIA for the last couple of years, but you know, through my social media journey, I mean, I've constantly said in my social media journey that I haven't really told anyone what's been going on, but the last 2 years have been my most challenging. You know, I went on when I got arrested, I put on 43 pounds within like 3 months. Like it was just stress eating, freaked out, laying in bed, like just, and if you know me before that, it's like mind-boggling that Kirin would even go through that. You know, women that I know and women that I don't know just constantly remind me on social media that I have it, I got it, I'm inspiring. I'm becoming a little bit more vulnerable on social media. And you know, my whole thing is I don't really need to inspire the masses if that's not my journey. But if I can inspire at least one person, then that's good enough, right?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
So that's kind of been my journey with women reaching out and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I do. Well, my branding is very, women friendly. So I have a lot of women who reach out to me, and I think most of them, it has to do with like their cultural barriers in terms of parents have told them this is the job that will benefit you, or you need to get a degree, and they still don't know what they want to do in their life, but they're in university, like the young woman from University of Toronto I connected you with, right? And they're looking for women in their culture to see who's done this before, who's broken the barriers, like how can I, so there's a desperate need for role models, like in our South Asian communities
and
right
mentors,
now.
Right?
Yeah. So I definitely see that, and we think that probably our generation, like it was harder for us, but I feel like even the younger generation, like people in their 20s, early 20s, they're still going through these things. So there has to be a change like that needs to happen, and you having a show like this definitely helps women to actually see this, right? To see there are platforms and people are breaking, like women are breaking glass ceilings. They are definitely glass ceilings, ladies.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that I was just thinking about was just in terms of the women that have reached out, a lot of times for the people that I've spoken to as well, because there's lots of women that reach out, not just from the show, but just also with my books and stuff too. And a lot of times the people will ask, like these days, especially with the younger generation of people, particularly where there's so much like divisiveness that's happening and there's so much hate in the community and just generally in society these days, a lot of the young people will just ask, like, how do you maintain hope, right? How do you continue going? How do we keep, how do we know that, we're going to have these dreams and we're going to work hard and that, we're able to surpass those barriers no matter what? What do you say to people like that?
Well, I put a post on today actually with the tragedy that happened last night or yesterday in Toronto. For me, I've been very, very successful. I've hit rock bottom. I've, come up and down and gone through divorce and being just everything that I could think of has happened. And I can 100% say that taking time out every morning, they say working out, they say this, they say that, that's great, right? But really taking time out every morning and praying or meditating or just really staying into your own thoughts is key. And I think we're living in a society now that's becoming less and less and less frequent, that people think it's not cool to spend time on their own, especially our younger generation. If they're, not with their friends, they're on their phones, their electronics and tablets and so on. And it's like the rat race is becoming faster and faster and faster. So therefore, I really do believe that being successful is knowing that you're disciplined with your time, and that your time, your own personal time, is more worthy than anything else, right? And when you start to hone into that, I think that's where you get that feeling of, I can actually do this. Right?
Oh, that's great. Do you have any last minute thoughts?
Yeah, I think like adding to that is just the people that you hang around with and you surround yourself with, right? Absolutely. And as human beings, everybody can be the prime minister of the country, they will still have the lowest moments in their day. So the people that you chill with and you hang around with, they will make a difference for sure, and you are the person of like the 5 people that you surround yourself with, right? So make wise choices when it comes to choosing the people that who you allow into your circle.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, well, thank you both for being on the show. You've both had some really interesting experiences, and it's just so inspiring and remarkable to know that you guys have, been able to sort of hit rock bottom and still, be able to achieve what you have. And I'm personally very excited to see where you all end up next.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
It was awesome. Thank you.
My pleasure. Well, thank you again for watching this week. We're looking forward to seeing you again next week and speaking to some more amazing women. Thanks so much. Take care.